All right, digging right into chapter 5 in love language number 2, this is quality time. Now, the thing about quality time is it's kind of scarce in our modern economy because quality time is about undivided attention. And undivided attention is hard, especially since most of us have mobile phones in our pockets just begging to distract us at a moment's notice. But the idea here of quality time is time spent together in a state of clear focus. You remember that in chapter 3, I introduced the concept of the silent emotional covenant, which is a concept that I've come up as I've helped people in their relationships. And that very much applies here. In this case, when a person's primary love language is quality time, they want to have that clear focus. Again, on the male side, the focus that he is the hero and therefore worthy of attention. And on the female side, that she is the precious treasure and worthy of direct and undivided attention. This love language is both difficult and easy. It's difficult because if it's not something that you're used to, then it can seem like this need for quality time pulls you away from important things and makes it hard to get done what you need to get done. But it's easy because once you figure out how to do it, almost anything will work. It's not so much the activity done together, it's that it's done together because you love each other. Now, as far as scheduling, this can be quite difficult because of how many demands we have on our time and how much we're pulled in so many different directions. But this really underscores the need to have our spouse and our marriage relationship be one of the big rocks in our lives or one of the important things. I have a video link here to the concept of big rocks and what that means if you're not familiar with it. But the essence of it is you schedule your priorities rather than prioritizing your schedule. So your spouse, particularly if their primary love language is quality time, really wants you to make them a priority in your life. And as I mentioned, the point of the activity is togetherness, doing something together, spending time focused on each other, not focused on a movie, but actually talking, enjoying each other's company, sharing thoughts and emotions. In my life, there's a special significance here because my wife's primary love language is quality time. And I struggled with it for years. And it was interesting because my daughter wanted a pet. And so we were praying about getting her a pet and specifically considering a dog. And as my wife and I prayed together about the idea, because up till that point we had never introduced any pets into our home, we got the impression that the pet was just as much for me as it was for my daughter. And this surprised me, but we did proceed and we got a dog. Well, it turns out over the years that recognizing the need that the dog has for dog walks, we have made it our pattern to have the dog walk most days done by my wife and I together. And it has done amazing things for us in our communication and understanding of each other because it's a time set aside every day where my wife and I just walk and talk together as we give the dog a walk. And so this dog has been a great blessing in our life because it gave us a clear reminder, because the dog definitely lets you know if she hasn't gotten a walk. The dog has become a clear reminder to us of the need for spending that quality time together. And it's allowed me a much better and consistent way to help fill up my wife's love tank. So, in terms of conversation, if we look at conversation during quality time, it's important to have eye contact, to have where you can read body language, where it's really more of a full experience. Tone of voice, all the different parts of communication are involved. Now, it can be difficult sometimes because your spouse may want to have your attention at a specific time when you really need to pay attention to something else. And if that's the case, then it's important to be able to say, I need to focus on this that I'm doing for 10 more minutes. But then after that, I'll be able to give you some direct focus and set it clearly that on this is the time you're doing this activity, and then you'll set aside that time for the direct focus. And so it's really connecting conversation about listening, about sharing feelings and emotions, and coming to understand and get to know each other better on a deep level. In the chapter, Dr. Chapman talks about the importance of learning to talk, learning to have conversations that are beyond the superficial and that allow us to deeply share our thoughts and our feelings. Now, for a lot of guys who are used to working in the brusque world of business and thinking primarily in a space that involves logic, They may not be used to exploring their feelings and how they felt about something. Or even more so, they may have throughout their life learned to suppress their feelings and not bring them up. The reality is, if a person's love language is quality time, then they want to know your feelings and your thoughts, most likely. They want to feel a connection with you. Again, this can be difficult if it's not something that, again, stereotypically on the guy side that we're used to doing. So in the chapter, Dr. Chapman proposes keeping a little notepad with you, and as events happen throughout the day, write down what you thought about it, but also take the moment to capture what you felt so that you're in the position to share thoughts and feelings. And it's important during this time to remember that the objective is to share, not necessarily to fix. You can ask if they'd like your advice on fixing something, but it's primarily about sharing feelings and empathizing with them. There's a humorous video that kind of takes this to its extreme, and I have a link to that here as well. Again, it's humorous, but it kind of drives home the point, the importance of communicating to share and to empathize rather than to fix. And so it's important as you consider quality time and quality activities doing together, if you or your spouse's love language is quality time, to remember that it's not about the specific activity. The activity is incidental, but it's the attention that matters. So he gives kind of 3 rules of thumb to remember as you're picking out these activities. And he gives an example of a couple where they go to the symphony on a regular basis, not because the husband, whose primary love language is not quality time, not because he loves the symphony, but because he loves his wife. And over time, he's learned to appreciate it. So the 3 rules of thumb that he gives for the activities is that one of the 2 of you wants to do it, 2, that both of you are willing to do it, and that 3, you recognize that you are doing the activity to show love to each other. And so, again, for those who aren't familiar with the love language of quality time, it can be a little bit difficult to wrap your head around, but it's pretty straightforward once you are willing to make the relationship with your spouse a big rock in terms of your time and set it as a high priority and say, hey, we're going to intentionally do things together to show love for each other. And as always, the links to any scriptures or resources that I mentioned during the video are down in the description.